Welcome to the chosen ones. When God runs out of patience, he does not raise his voice. He raises his hand. The chosen ones. Allow me to take you someplace profound for a bit. Did you know that in medicine, there are diseases known as psychosomatic illnesses that are caused by the poison of the mind and spirit rather than germs or viruses? That means you may actually imagine yourself ill, hate yourself sick, envy yourself sick, and cuss your way into a hospital bed. Imagine increasing it by the weight of divine judgment, for that is precisely what your enemies have stepped into. See, they didn't simply play with you. They tampered with the covenant that bound you. And God, being compassionate, gave them time to pause, repent, and withdraw. But they laughed. They ridiculed. They doubled down. They saw stillness as weakness. They mistook patience for consent. And now, let's just say God took away the last notification letter. And it was not typed. It was inscribed on their own bodies. Think about it. They hoped for your collapse, but their legs gave out. They wished you restless nights, but suddenly their pillows seemed like battlegrounds. They wanted your name dragged, but now their own name is muttered about with sorrow and hate. The funny aspect is that they are still attempting to appear as if nothing is wrong, walking about with the assurance of a 2-bar Wi-Fi connection, claiming it's strong while everyone knows it's weak. So strap up, because today we're not going to sugarcoat anything. We are delving into the realities of what occurs when foes disregard divine warnings. You are going to see how disease becomes prophesy, misery becomes proof, and God himself demonstrates to the world that you are untouchable. This is not karma. This isn't a coincidence. This is covenant enforcement. And believe me, once you hear this, you will never look at your adversary's challenges in the same way again. Number 1. Their illness is the result of a concealed ailment. Their illness is not random. The body is exposing the truth about what has been hidden within for years. Hatred, jealousy, bitterness, and malice are not feelings that individuals carry about casually. They are toxic. They do not remain in the heart and intellect as innocuous emotions. They start to rust, corrode, and pollute everything from the inside out. What they believe they were aiming at you has silently fermented in their own system, waiting for the right time. It would arrive in full force. That day has here, and it has taken the shape of disease. This is why their condition seems to be tailor-made for them. It is an exact mirror of what they silently held in their soul. When someone feeds on envy every day, when they speak about their diet and trash their oxygen, the body is unable to withstand the weight of such filth without crumbling. They believe they were killing you with their negativity, but they were really breeding their own demise. It is not punishment without reason. It exposes an illness that they nursed in the shadows. What is noteworthy is how others around them may fail to connect the dots with the outside world. It seems to be a luck, stress, or just a turn of circumstances. But the reality goes deeper. God enabled what was spiritual to manifest in physical form so that no one could dispute what was going on. That concealed rot had to be exposed, and the body served as a canvas for judgment. There is another layer here. Sickness forces them to live within the identical cage they attempted to construct for you. They wanted you shattered, weak, depleted, and striving to get up. Instead, they find themselves stuck in a body that will not comply. The body has become the executioner for the soul's degradation. This is the terrible truth of it all. The illness is not an accident. It is the natural result of years of spiritual defilement. Their secret sickness could not remain hidden indefinitely. It emerged in a manner that cannot be denied. And the irony? They spent so much time scheming your ruin, but their own demise was already inscribed in their bones. Number 2. God, let them feast first so that their downfall would be seen. They celebrated first, and the celebration is part of the plot. God permitted them to taste victory so that their demise would be obvious and irrefutable. When individuals gloat, host parties, and flaunt their win over someone else, they are making a public statement about the battle's conclusion. Giving them the chance to celebrate was an intentional act of divine timing. It made their arrogance known and documented. It eliminated any pretext for concealment or misunderstanding. When the fall arrived after the feast, it read like a judgment imprinted on the same stage where they danced. That exposure is critical because justice done in the shadows might be dismissed as accident, coincidence, or poor luck. However, when God causes a reversal to occur after their joy, the reverse becomes a testimony. Their own achievement becomes a billboard. That explains why the reversal occurred. The feast becomes the context. Their fall becomes the correction. There is also a valuable lesson on timing for everyone watching. Mercy often appears as slowness, and a delayed reaction might be misunderstood for indifference. By allowing them to rejoice, God tested whether their triumph would soften or harden them. They hardened, yet their laughter persisted. Their insults became louder. That reluctance to stop transformed kindness into proof. The public character of the fall shields the selected one from private slander efforts. When foes conduct a smear in secret, the target may feel ostracized and doubted. However, a public reversal after a public celebration reveals the liar and restores confidence. It rewrites the story in front of the same audience that previously accepted the deception. This is strategic cruelty. God could remove injustice discreetly, but staging the fall after the feast would not discourage others from doing the same. God uses the experience to teach those who may follow in his footsteps. It expresses unequivocally that tolerance is not licensed to continue in cruelty. Finally, the aftermath of their feast demonstrates the importance of timing in spiritual issues. Immediate reprisal would be chaotic and may be seen as revenge. A delayed public unmasking eliminates uncertainty and requires responsibility. Their laughing serves as the echo that discloses them, and others who watch their dance become witnesses to the truth. Number 3. The disease is tailored to their sin. Their illness is not a random occurrence. It's a clear reflection of the sin they can't let go of. Each ailment they experience is related to how they treated you and others. When someone uses their tongue as a weapon, it's no surprise that disease silences their speech. When someone spends their energy crushing others, it's not surprising that their own power starts to wane. This is not a coincidence. It is precise. God deals in precision, not accidents. Thus, the punishment reflects the offense. Consider how targeted it seems. Some of them lose their peace of mind after attempting to annoy you. Some are uneasy in their own houses because they conspired against your peace. Others are weak and frail because they abuse their authority against the helpless. Their situation is clear. It reflects their actions like a mirror. This is why their anguish seems almost lyrical, almost too precise to overlook. God is sure that they eat precisely what they served. This makes their illness more than simply a personal struggle. It becomes a message. Everyone who sees it recognizes that it is not ordinary. It reveals the fact that they seeded darkness and are now reaping it in their own bodies. The same energy they used to destroy has come back to claim them. They cannot claim it as bad luck. They cannot complain that it is unjust. They understand that the illness is caused by their behaviors. It also serves as a reminder that no one is immune to the law of spiritual consequences. People often assume they can get away with cruelty because they don't notice immediate consequences. But delayed judgment does not imply no judgment. When it eventually arrives, it is suited to the offensive. This illness is clear proof that God does more than simply punish. He also matches. It is exact justice, constructed such that they cannot dispute the relationship. Finally, the illness affects more than just them. It is about the testimony that it generates. Their demise demonstrates that every action has a consequence. Every seed yields a harvest, and every wrong has an echo. They are incarcerated in a penalty that is completely appropriate for their crime. Fourth, their disease is a heavenly cease and desist command. God did not extinguish them. He slowed them down and made their failure obvious. Their illness is a heavenly halt and desist because it eliminates the weapons they use to assault you. The voice, reach, and stamina exist without the need to race. It is a public halt that causes them to cease functioning under the appearance of control when they previously moved freely to injure, manipulate, or intimidate. They are now halted by a body that refuses to comply. The purpose of such pause is not just to punish. Its purpose is to limit the harm and allow the truth to emerge. This kind of intervention is surgical. It does not seek dramatic vengeance. It attempts both containment and correction. If God had chosen death, the tale would have ended, and lessons would have been missed by keeping them alive but disabled. The effects stay apparent and instructive. People can perceive the consequences of cruelty without the veil of conspiracy or the obscurity of natural causes. The ill individual serves as a living warning to others who may be tempted to follow in their footsteps. You don't breach certain limits with other individuals. Their paused position also clears the air surrounding them. When a predator is forced to cease, slander attempts lose traction. Lies die at the source, giving the targeted individual the opportunity to repair their image in public. The stop and desist is not subtle. It's direct and undeniable. It eliminates the tools of damage, allowing the community to rethink what was real and what was created. That repair occurs precisely because the aggressor is no longer able to sustain the narrative they previously controlled. Stopping a teacher in public adds another element of humiliation. Weakness slows everything down. He lost his swagger. That humiliation may either shatter a person or make them receptive to the truth. God's stop allows the offender to reflect on what they've done, examine their motivations, and recognize the harm they've caused. This pause makes room for mercy to manifest. The individual is still alive and hence capable of change. But humility is inevitable. They are reduced to the same situation in which they degraded others. Finally, the stop and desist notice informs viewers. It clearly states that God enforces some commitments. It does not always hit like lightning. He sometimes interrupts with a hand on the brake. That interruption is sufficient to protect the weak, expose the liar, and transform a personal conflict into a public lesson. Number 5, they insulted your wounds. They're now obliged to wear their own. Your wounds were handled as if they were amusement, turning your misery into joke lines, smirking as they scroll past your suffering, and determining their standing based on how publicly they can humiliate you. That act displays a malice that benefits from the failure of others. The tables have now turned in such a manner that they can no longer stage or spin. Their anguish is public, visceral, and difficult to cut out of video or social media feeds. The same audience who applauded their punches earlier is now witnessing them fumble through the same thing they praised. There's a horrible symmetry about it. They derived comedy from your mistakes, and it is now the currency with which others discuss them. Their humiliation is not unintentional. It is a logical continuation of what they started. When someone makes a show of another person's suffering, they encourage people to look upon misery with contempt, detachment, and a desire for gossip. That training returns like a mirror. The audience learns to observe without sympathy, to find enjoyment in another's demise. So, when their bodies fail or their strength fails, those same observers know how to react because they were taught to do so. The mocking they previously perpetrated becomes the prism through which their own demise is seen. This is what makes their collapse so ferocious. Their wounds are caused by more than just the disease. It is the societal response that completes the job. There is also a moral lesson about genuineness. When they become the object of pity or contempt, persons who laugh at other people's agony are generally displaying toughness, concealing fear, or claiming superiority. The performance cannot be maintained. The laughing vanishes. The scripts disappear. What remains is a person exposed. They were stripped of their pretenses and forced to face the consequences of their actions while others suffered. That exposure might be beneficial if they desire to learn. It may be heartbreaking if they hold on to pride. In any case, the spectacle brings the truth to light. Finally, this reversal isn't just punishment. It serves as a community corrective measure. It alters the behavior of onlookers in the future. Witnessing the sign being ridiculed teaches onlookers that harshness is hazardous, that scorn has repercussions, and that empathy is more important than praise. Those who previously laughed have become the object lesson, and their experience rewires society's reaction to misery. If others can see it, their sorrow becomes a lesson rather than an act, proving that how you treat others determines how the world will treat you. Number 6, God sent the disease to quiet them, not to kill them. Their mouth was their weapon, and illness is the gag that removes it. For many years, they employed sound as ammunition, lies disguised as facts, Murmurs transformed into campaigns. Scorn intensified into a continual broadcast aimed at shattering you. Words determine their strength. They gained power with whispers, guided crowds with lies, and broke hearts with public statements. When speech is the source of damage, shutting it off is a surgical maneuver. The sickness does not remove them. It eliminates their power to influence, rally, and poison. Suddenly, the one who choreographs storms can't even create a breeze. This forced silence affects everything. A voice that previously multiplied lives must now deal with the lack of consequence. Without the constant stream of insults and accusations, narratives collapse. People who relied on that voice to affirm their vision of reality now feel unmoored. The halt saps momentum. Gossip slows, theories lose form, and smear operations that needed continual feeding succumb to neglect. In that clearing, truth may breathe anew, and the tales they formerly told lose their oxygen through repetition. There is also responsibility in the silence when someone who used words to hurt is suddenly unable to speak. The individual obtains a rare, inescapable mirror reflection if they utilize the stillness to dig deeper, to confront what they did and why. The joke becomes a pathway to repentance. However, if they spend time plotting around boundaries, the quiet just reinforces their resistance to change. The difference is whether the forced quietness becomes a confessional salon or a quiet space for bitterness to fester. The community views stillness as a kind of relief. It isn't a flashy victory. It's a sensible solution to everyday damage. People who have been gaslit or intimidated have the opportunity to rebuild their voices, rectify records, and be heard without the shadow of a bigger liar drowning them out. The gag causes a balance. The loud predator is silenced long enough for the injured to recover. Finally, it is not about annihilation. It's all about neutralizing. When God silences the lips, He eliminates the source of continued harm without resorting to finality. That constraint allows everyone, the offender, the aggrieved, and the witnesses, to see what truth looks like when the cacophony is gone. The stillness communicates in its own language. Accountability, protection, and the prospect of returning what was weaponized to a constructive rather than destructive purpose. Number 7. The disease demonstrates that touching you violated the agreement. Their disease isn't only a punishment. It's courtroom evidence that they crossed a border they had no idea existed. Chosen ones bear safeguards and covenants that are not apparent to everyone. And when someone threatens your life, reputation, or destiny, they are targeting more than just you. They are trampling on what God has sealed. The subsequent illness seems to be proof. It links the trespass to the act. It's the kind of clarity that eliminates the need for typical excuses or poor timing tales. This isn't magical fluff. It is the logic of boundary enforcement. People who believe they were dealing with ordinary competition realize the rules have changed. Their assaults elicited a reaction focused on the infraction itself. The sickness is not a random strike. It represents the moment they crossed into land destined for something greater than themselves. That is why people with the ability to notice the link can't miss it. When you assault what is protected by a covenant, the consequences are proportionate and sharp. It descends on you in a manner consistent with the trespass you committed. There's another layer, the social and spiritual record. When their disease emerges after a campaign against you, others begin to interpret the sequence: assault, celebration, and collapse. That chain becomes testimony. It makes it more difficult for them to maintain the pretense that their activities were innocuous or justifiable. The illness serves as an affidavit written in the body. It confirms the reality of what occurred and reveals the moral arithmetic behind it. People who are doubtful begin to see the trend. The accused is accused again, but now, with the weight of apparent consequences. This enforcement also protects the selected individual. Covenant borders are not arbitrary shields. They influence how justice is administered by making the punishments clear and indisputably linked to the offense. God prohibits the cover-up that often accompanies strong people's wrongdoings. The end outcome is a type of public correction that reallocates moral weight back where it belongs. You don't just become vindicated in private. Witnesses are presented with a clear record. Finally, The idea is simple but effective. You do not cross certain lines. The disease demonstrates that certain targets are marked, and that breaching that mark results in a reaction suited to the affront. It's an incontrovertible indication that certain safeguards exist and are implemented. The result exposes the trespasser, restores equilibrium, and cautions others who may be tempted to test the covenant's limitations. Number 8. Their illness is more than simply a physical condition. It is a legacy problem. Their disease is not limited to their body. It has an impact on their family history. When someone assaults a chosen one, they are not merely attacking a person, but also breaking a covenant with generational consequences. God's markings, bloodlines, and the repercussions of violating what is protected do not necessarily end with the culprit. Children, descendants, and even those linked by familial connections might all experience the consequences of the decisions taken against you. This is not a retribution for innocent life. It represents the natural weight of spiritual cause and consequence. A reminder that actions have far-reaching implications beyond what is initially apparent. The energy, anger, and hate they hurl at you imprints on their own system, and the consequences follow the bloodline. It's as if the cosmos keeps a record of violations and guarantees that lessons are not forgotten. The patterns are not repeated mindlessly. Their offspring may face difficulties, problems, or challenges that stem from the initial crime, not because of arbitrary judgment, but because spiritual law requires balance. It serves as a harsh warning that assaulting someone God has designated will have far-reaching consequences. This legacy component also acts as a warning to others. Attacking a chosen one is never a private or solitary action. It is a trespass with a long memory, affecting far more than just the immediate target. The illness becomes a living reminder of the boundary being crossed, a visible demonstration that the consequences extend beyond a single life. Those who are watching can see the consequences of violation not only now, but also in the future. Finally, their suffering demonstrates the accuracy and depth of divine protection. God's defense is not shallow. It is based on permanence, extending its reach across generations to ensure order, justice, and balance. Their war against you was never limited to one person. It contradicted a covenant, a lineage, and a destiny. And their illness demonstrates that no one tampers with what God has provided without the consequences reverberating far beyond them. Number 9. They prayed for your collapse, but instead became the solution to their own misfortune. Every curse was muttered. Every scheme they devised to have you fall has gone full circle. Their assaults were never neutral. Every speech, thought, and act of hostility had energy that needed to be expended someplace. That energy, formed by hate and malice, was directed at you. However, it returned, much like a boomerang. Their illness is not a random occurrence, nor is it God's harshness. It is a reflection of their investments in the globe. They created their own trap, and they are now stuck in it. When individuals pray or talk badly of someone, they typically believe that the power is completely in the target. They fail to see that words and intentions have velocity, and when they have weight, they have implications for the sender, the sickness, the weakness, and the shame. They are the inexorable return of energy, exploiting what they had thought would shatter. Instead, you upset the equilibrium in their own life. Every insult, falsehood, and manipulative conduct was thoroughly documented, and the body, soul, and circumstances form the ledger that settles the account. There's also the issue of exposure. Words hurled into darkness often convey a feeling of impunity. They thought no one could track down the source of their assaults, but the illness exposes them, converting their own plans into flesh and blood proof. Their bodies serve as a testament to their brutality, and the echoes of their malevolent purpose are obvious to all. What they sought to portray onto you, the turmoil and instability, the suffering falls firmly on them. This is not just poetic justice. It is an example of spiritual law in operation. Energy returns to the sender because the cosmos or God's justice does not allow imbalance to remain continuously. When you seek to deconstruct a life under a covenant, you unleash forces that will not stop. They readjust and return, often exaggerated to ensure responsibility. In the end, The illness tells a tale that they cannot change. Every act of damage directed at you has become a mirror for their own goals. Their failure is not an accident. It is an identical replica of the curse they sought to lift. They preyed on your devastation. However, they became the answer to their own prayers. And this is the unwavering accuracy of divine justice. Number 10. The disease reveals what their masks could not conceal. For years, they donned masks that were deliberately built to project power, charm, intellect, or control. They exuded confidence, power, and expertise while concealing uneasiness, brutality, and vulnerability underneath. To the outer world, they seemed impenetrable, invincible, or without blame. But disease does not lie. It is unconcerned by appearances, pretense, or the stories individuals create around themselves. It removes all illusions and reveals what has been hidden under the surface. The sickness exposes the truth in ways that no argument, witness, or confrontation can. Suddenly, the confidence they demonstrated crumbles beneath its weight. The charm that formerly veiled manipulation is now empty. The intellect they flaunted could not overcome the body's failing. The world sees the fragility they spent years concealing, and the credibility they once had erodes with it. What they once believed was secret strength is now obvious weakness. This vulnerability is more than simply a public disclosure. It's a reflection of everyone who misjudged or ignored you while wearing masks to ridicule, manipulate, or overwhelm you. The disease exposes them and demonstrates that their power was fleeting, shallow, and false. The contrast between their apparent strength and their genuine weakness emphasizes your resilience, showing the world that genuine power cannot be fabricated or coerced. There is also a spiritual aspect to this. The mask is a barricade against responsibility, a technique for manipulating perception and avoiding consequences. Sickness pierces the shield. It cuts through falsehoods, deception, and spin, allowing the truth to emerge in the most obvious manner. Exposure functions as both punishment and training. It cautions people that looks may be deceptive, but deeds and intentions are never completely concealed. Finally, their condition reveals a truth they could not avoid. They were feeble well before the symptoms appeared. Their strength was just on the surface, their control a veneer, and their might a show. The disease exposes the emptiness underneath the mask, revealing that no amount of manipulation or deception can overcome the genuine song. It reinforces your untouchability while revealing their fragility in a manner that cannot be ignored or denied. Their disease serves as a prophetic warning to others. Their illness isn't just about them. It is a message in motion. The exposure of their demise is purposeful because God seldom wastes sorrow, even when it serves a purpose by enabling their suffering to be seen. He transforms their body and situation into a live warning sign for those who are silently contemplating the same route. It is not subtle. It is not concealed. It's a billboard displaying a reality that words alone can never convey. Do not touch what God has covered. This explains why the decision is so public. Others may regard it as coincidence or ill luck if it had happened in secret. However, as it unfolds in plain sight, the link becomes difficult to deny. People begin muttering, taking mental notes, and drawing lines for themselves. Whatever they did to the chosen one, I will not attempt it. Their illness becomes a deterrent, and their humiliation serves as a cautionary tale that resets the bounds of respect. God understood that if he didn't make it obvious, the lesson would be forgotten, and someone else would emerge to resume the cycle. There is justice in this disclosure. Those who were following your narrative are now seeing a turnaround that speaks louder than words. You do not need to defend yourself or dispute with naysayers. Their failure speaks for you. Their silence speaks volumes in your defense. Their infirmity serves as the finishing touch to a protracted sentence of torture. What formerly seemed to be your weakness now seems to be God, who is using your persistence as the foundation for a powerful display. Here's the unvarnished truth. This warning isn't only for adversaries. It is also for spectators. It requires everyone who saw your degradation to decide how they will position themselves in the future. Will they dare to participate in the cruelty? Or will they realize the consequences of such rebellion? God creates examples not out of pettiness, but out of protection, so that those who want to test you next will stop before they begin. Their disease is a physical manifestation of prophecy. It claims that those ridiculed by God are untouchable. It speaks louder than lectures, debates, or justifications. It states unequivocally that entering covenant area has repercussions, and those consequences are more than just whispers in heaven. They emerge into reality for everyone to witness. Number the sickness demonstrates that energy returns to the sender. They created altars out of words and acts. Small gossip ceremonies, jealousy invites, and sabotage preparations. These ceremonies were not innocuous. They were purposeful energies aimed at you. Energy follows. Intention and intention accumulate power. When all that concentrated animosity was repeated, it needed a place to land, so the cosmos redirected it back to the sender. Their body has now become an altar, and everything they've spent years pouring out is curdling within them. Gossip is a kind of investment. The time they spent chanting your name, practicing falsehoods, and creating traps was not in vain. It grew into a power. Jealousy is fuel, and sabotage is a ritual. They set those fires every day, and the flames devoured more than their intended targets. They devoured the architects. When that same power finds its way within, it manifests as bodily breakdowns, persistent pain, inexplicable exhaustion, and disorders that defy simple categorization. The body keeps track of where its energy goes. This returning energy is neither a mystical coincidence nor a moralistic retribution. It's natural law in operation. You can't expect to send bad energy into the world without it affecting the vessel that discharged it. The hatred left a mark on their neurological system, sleep habits, and micro-choices in their lives. Contemptuous habits alter throughout time, as do hormone levels, stress reactions, and immune systems. That physiological toll leads to illness. In this way, their body becoming the altar is merely a physical manifestation of their spiritual and emotional engagement. There is an apparent irony here. They meant to use you as an example, marking you for failure. Instead, they served as a warning example. Friends who previously supported their projects are now seeing them crumble beneath the weight they have built. The altar picture is appropriate since altars are sites for giving. They offered poison, which the world embraced and returned. The lesson is quite practical. If you spend your life investing in the downfall of others, you should expect a return. However, do not anticipate to make a profit. It will be a physical and social bill delivered with no respect to the selected one. The enemy's sight, undermined by their own sacrifice, serves as vindication for them. It's a ledger of consequences. Energy returning to the sender is not a superstition. The cause and consequence are clearly inscribed on the body. It's simple. What you pour out ultimately finds a home and remains there forever. A number. Their frailty validates your untouchability. Their illness is not an accident. It's a marker, a real evidence that God's protection for you cannot be broken. It's tempting to believe that defense is passive and that surviving an assault is just chance or timing. But when your adversaries are killed while targeting you, the reality becomes clear. Your shield is active and precise. Their vulnerability demonstrates that no matter how brilliant, persistent, or bold they are, they cannot affect what God has planned for you. This is not about their body or their pain. It's about visibility. God did not just protect you in private. He made his defense apparent. People who were observing, complicit, or planning their own efforts may now see an impenetrable layer encircling you. It is not a shield. They are capable of reasoning, manipulating, and overpowering. Every effort they made to break you demonstrated the inadequacy of human designs against heavenly protection. The disease becomes a public witness, demonstrating that God's involvement is both genuine and irresistible. It also rewrites the narrative, where your attackers may have previously portrayed you as weak, defenseless, or exposed. Their failure proves the contrary. Your untouchability has been recognized in the court of observation. Witnesses see the trend. The people who assaulted, ridiculed, or conspired against you are disabled, while you remain unharmed. Their shortcomings highlight your invincibility. This isn't ego. It is proof that goes beyond observation. Their vulnerability sends a message to anybody who may contemplate trying you in the future. It sets boundaries in a manner that words never could. Threats, conspiracies, and machinations are dealt with heavenly accuracy rather than human vengeance. It indicates that crossing a certain one is not a risk. It's a definite defeat. Finally, the disease indicates more than just protection. It affirms fate. You are functioning under a covenant and shield that are strategic, precise, and unfathomable. God's involvement does not just save. You are raised by evidence of untouchability, becoming untouchable not just in actuality, but also in your vision of the world. Their weakness is the spotlight, which shows your invulnerability. A live declaration that no amount of determination can ever overturn what God has safeguarded. They are learning that delay does not imply escape. When the initial strikes fell and nothing occurred, they exclaimed with relief, as if the scoreboard had stopped in their favor. That comfort was deceptive. Delay is not escaping, just as practiced patience. God's time is not the same as our impatience. He permits time to pass for strategic rather than emotional reasons. The passage of time allows hubris to rise, which gives the leader's reprimand greater moral weight. What seemed to be serendipity or carelessness was in fact withholding, holding back the final response until the right time would provide the most unambiguous proof of cause and effect. This delay is both a test and a trap. It examines whether the perpetrator will soften, repent, or escalate. It traps the person who misinterprets patience as approval and escalates brutality. When the response does occur, it falls on someone who thought they had dodged the consequences. That assumption exacerbates the collapse since pride increases the cost of shame. The illness that follows a time of seeming tranquility is worse. It has all the unanswered moments. Every insult, untruth, and planned setback carries weight. The body does not become ill all at once. It crumbles under the accumulating ledger of every injustice. There is a public reason to wait. Quick revenge might be dismissed as pettiness. Immediate reaction might resemble a personal grudge. When justice is delayed, however, the subsequent occurrence reads more like an audit than a tantrum. People see a chronological sequence of events: hubris, delay, and consequence. That sequence reveals purpose and eliminates plausible deniability. Onlookers who previously shrugged began to arrange events in moral order, recognizing a pattern rather than a random occurrence. Delay sharpens the story. It turns rumors into proof. Delay also shows compassion by not hitting quickly. The chance to repent remains available. The perpetrator has the opportunity to alter direction. Mercy is not weakness. It is an ethical demand put on the offender to make a different decision. Refusing that demand doubles down on the responsible person, and the final correction serves as a lesson for the community about what happens when kindness is wasted. In the end, delay is a clarifying tool. It distinguishes the incidental from the deliberate, teaches that time does not erase moral accounting, and that when the consequences arise, they bear the full weight of the transgression. The disease vividly demonstrates this fact. Nothing actually slips through when a promise has been violated. Everything we've investigated indicates a fact that cannot be ignored. When God's chosen ones are assaulted, the repercussions are clear, public, and unmistakable. Every act of hostility, every word of jealousy, and every effort to undermine was never directed only at you. It was against a pact, a fate that could not be altered. Their illness is not a result of chance or bad luck. It is proof of boundaries crossed, energy redirected, and divine justice carried out with surgical precision. It serves as both a warning and a corrective, as well as a proclamation. God reveals the futility of human attempts against his protection by causing them to fail. Their frailty demonstrates your untouchability. Their defeat demonstrates that the forces assembled against you, no matter how cunning or ruthless, can never triumph against what God has decreed. Every joke they made at your suffering now echoes back in disgrace. Every scheme they devised has resulted in a boomerang of consequences. Their bodies and surroundings come to life. Testimonies show that assaulting a chosen one is more than merely risky. It is detrimental to pride, influence, and false security. And the lesson goes beyond them. Their pain serves as a prophetic warning to the world, a vivid show that educates jealous peers and potential assailants that certain borders are impenetrable. God does not operate in secret when protection is required. He acts in ways that are apparent, distinguishable, and instructional. He converts harshness into proof. Malice transforms into a mirror, and assaults become teachings that rewrite the story of who is secure, untouchable, and bears divine favor for you. The chosen one. This is the ultimate validation. It's not simply about surviving. It's a victory. Every effort against you has strengthened your resolve, covenant, and destiny. Your adversary's fall reveals your invincibility in ways that words cannot. It serves as a reminder that your defenses are active, your route is solid, and your strength is apparent. So remember this. Their failure is not your fault. It's a wonderful arrangement. There is pain, not pandemonium. It is calibrated justice. And you are untouchable. Agility is no longer a mystery. It is a live, breathing fact that the world cannot ignore. You have been tagged, protected, and verified. And everybody watching now understands that assaulting a chosen one is more than simply irresponsible. It's impossible to succeed. Make sure to subscribe, like, comment, and share this message because the world deserves to witness what occurs when God's covenanted ones are fully safeguarded. If this message resonated with you and opened your eyes, be sure you subscribe to the channel so you never miss out on the truth. God reveals in this video if you sense the force of protection over the chosen ones. Comment below with your views, experiences, or aha moments from today. Don't forget to share this video with everyone who wants to witness what occurs when God protects people under His covenant. Every click, share, and remark contributes to the notion that certain safeguards are unbreakable and some wins are divine. God bless you.